Good evening and welcome to Unapologetic, the UK podcast on politics, news and stuff from a right-of-centre viewpoint. We've got the original team here tonight. We've got Sam,
hello.
Susan,
Woohoo.
Jonathan,
hello,
and I'm Steve. And we've got a real busy one. We've actually couldn't thin it down, so we've got kind of 5 topics, so we might be talking for a while, but I know you all love that. You think it's great when we just yabber on and on and on, don't they, Sam?
Well, actually, given the topics that we've got to talk about, they look pretty dry, so I don't think we'll be talking very long.
Okay, you're definitely going to have to talk louder than that, though, otherwise we're all going to drown you out. Okay, so the first one is, a man has been jailed for 16 years for a brutal and shocking machete attack on a police officer. Mohammed Rodwan, 56, struck PC Robert Alton over the head with a 60cm blade after being stopped in his white van in East London in late August. Rodwan, who had previous convictions for rape and 2 machete attacks, was pulled over in Leighton, East London on suspicion of having no insurance. He punched Alton and grabbed the sharpened machete as the officer tried to arrest him. Despite bleeding heavily from 6 deep gashes to his head and arm, Alton managed to taser Rodwan twice. Rodwan claimed he had acted in self-defence, telling police, "My life is worth more than his life." A jury at the Old Bailey on Thursday cleared Rodwan of attempted murder, but found him guilty of wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. Rodwan, 56, was cleared of having an offensive weapon, having argued that he used the machete in his gardening work. So that's the situation, guys. What do you think about it, Susan?
Oh, God. How could anybody not find him guilty of attempted murder? How can you hit someone in the head with a machete and claim that you used that for gardening and it was self-defence? He pulled you over because you're... And not only that, so he's been done for rape and 2 other machete assaults.
Yeah,
he seems like a real sweetheart.
When he said he used his machete for gardening work, I think he meant gardening work and previous assaults.
Yeah, clearly.
But to explain why he didn't get done for murder, as it were, I'm sure our law expert, Jonathan, can fill you in. Jonathan?
No, I can't. It seems a bit inexplicable, that one. But
I thought you had a law degree.
yeah,
Because I thought the gist of murder is that you had to have planned and
You have to have
intended to
Yeah,
do
but
it.
why would you have a machete if not to use it? I don't carry around a knife or a machete.
Yeah, but he didn't know the policeman was going to stop him in the van. So he's saying, I had my machete because I do gardening work. Then he stopped me in the van and I did for him.
Unless
So
there's
he's
a
not.
strimmer
He's
in the
not.
back and everything else, I would rubbish that argument. That's no different to someone saying I carry knives because I was going to cut a cake.
Yeah, but it's still, even then, even if he was carrying the machete with the intention to kill someone, it's not murder unless he intended to kill that someone. Then it becomes. I think it becomes manslaughter. I'm not a law expert, but that's what I thought it was.
I think you have to have intent, and clearly he got it. So I really don't understand where the jury was coming from with that one. But he's the unfortunate thing. He's been given 16 years, which, when you consider that he will be out after 8, seems a bit kind of trivial sentence. What's interesting is that the police officers got tasers. I think it's the time to taser someone, and I know it's not how the guidelines are, is when someone has turned their back on you and is about to walk off, because you shouldn't be doing that to a police officer. And that is a point at which he should have been tasered.
Well, I don't suppose the police officer expected him to charge him with a machete.
No, I'm not on
They only stopped him for insurance.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you should speak respectfully to a police officer, and if you just ignore a police officer and walk off, at that point, and that point only, you should be tasered.
I don't know about that.
Well, Jonathan's harsh view of law.
Yeah, and going a stage further, I don't see any reason nowadays why the whole of the Metropolitan Constabulary can't be armed, and this would have been an excellent incident where he should have been shot dead.
Well, the Mayor of London's too busy putting on firework displays. And what do you think, Sam?
Oh, I object to that comment that someone's too busy putting on fireworks.
Oh.
Just because you're putting on fireworks displays doesn't mean you're a bad mayor or you're crap at policing. However, he is a bad mayor and crap at policing, but I just don't think the two go together. But
Hey, I can take cheap shots if I like.
But yeah, I do think that he's said he can't really got to get his act together with the whole crime in London and stuff. And I don't disagree with Jonathan, actually. I think shoot to kill from the police would be good in a number of instances. If you're starting to attack a police officer with a machete, then you deserve to be shot.
Yeah. I mean, he said his life was worth more than the police officer's life. I mean, that's not a crime to say that, but
rapist, no,
gives you an idea of the guy's mindset, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just think, I'd be interested to know how many years previously he'd done, because clearly prison wasn't curing him, was it? It wasn't acting as a rehabilitation method, was it?
Well,
And if it does-
I get frustrated when people might say that 16 years isn't a long time, because all right, you get out in 8 years, but that's only on good behaviour. You know, if you get around smashing people up in prison like you did when you were out of prison, you still do your whole 16 years, don't you?
Yeah, but he may be vicious out on the street, but he's probably nothing to nobody in prison, is he? So of course he's going to keep his mouth shut and his head down, and hopefully everything else down.
Fair play to the police officer though. I don't know if you've seen the pictures. He's massive gashes in his head,
Does he really?
and he
Bless
still
him.
managed to sort the guy out with his taser. So he's tough as you like.
The other thing is there, I mean, you can look at it yourself, the attack, because it's online, and you can't see any mitigating circumstances there at all.
Just plain nutter, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he thinks he can kill someone because he got stopped for having no insurance. I mean, I don't agree with police carrying guns, and I don't agree with shooting people, but I'd shoot him. I'd do him.
Nothing like a bit of hypocrisy to get the day started.
I know it's completely wrong of me to say it, but no, he's scum of the earth, isn't he? Really?
All right, let's move on to agenda item 2. iNews had this to say today. It is just 7 days to go until Brexit Day. The day that more than half the country could not wait for when they put their X next to the word out back in 2016, and Remainers hoped would never come to be. Victory, more than anything. The UK is leaving the EU, and an organisation leavers associate with words such as sclerotic, bureaucratic and protectionist. It is the realisation of a dream for many Brexiteers that is well over 40 years in the making. The UK's departure provides the government with the opportunity to establish its own trading partnerships with countries around the world, namely the US and China. Brexiteers will also be able to rejoice in the fact that the European Court of Justice, the bête noire of so many long-term leavers, is likely to have a dramatically reduced role in UK law. Fishing communities, particularly in Scotland, will also have to cheer the fact that the UK will have control over its coastal waters once more, and of course there are those blue passports. And after 3 years of rancor, the UK will be leaving the European Union on the 31st of January, taking its first steps into the world on its own. Now, I actually clipped that from a much longer piece, which was a bit more derogatory about the fact that we're leaving. But most of that is exactly what they said. I just clipped some bits out of it, so it has been edited a little. But it's the last thing I sort of take issue with, and I want your view on it, or any of it actually, but the last bit in particular, our first steps into the world of our own. Like we didn't spend hundreds of years taking steps, like we didn't lead the world in many ways and in many subjects. I mean, what do you make of that, Jonathan?
Well, it's an interesting take, that's all you can say really. I mean, what I'm looking forward is going back to the old currency, so we've got, 20 shillings to the pound and 12 pence to a shilling, and none of this metric nonsense, and going back to feet and inches as opposed to metres.
Oh, pounds and ounces. I miss pounds and ounces.
Well,
Who knows how
they're
much
still
that
like
baby
me.
weighs?
Every Zoomer and millennial in the country is currently screaming at this podcast. Do you realise that?
You buy, even to this date, I mean, you buy your beer in pints or your milk in pints. We need to go back.
When I was at school, that was the period where they were just changing over, where I was taught kind of the new system, but the imperial system was still taught as a kind of secondary system, and went into engineering after school, and everybody there still used feet and inches, and actually most of them still do. Except for the most modern companies, a lot of them still do.
The reason a lot of them do, having worked in engineering, is because of the Americans. The Americans do use feet and inches, and they are, from an engineering point of view, I mean, just one company, Boeing, produces half the world's aircraft. So they're clearly going to have an influence on, engineering right across the world.
Yeah, I mean, what do you make of this, Sam? You probably aren't you aren't old enough to remember any of these kind of imperial measurements. You've just grown up with all the modern ones, haven't you? What do you think of it?
I don't really know. When did things change? I mean, I don't remember groats and stuff.
70s and 80s. Gross.
They go that far back.
What's a groat?
A groat is 4 pence. Old
Oh,
money.
no.
We definitely didn't have
Jonathan
much.
does remember
I
groats.
do remember.
I don't
remember when
that.
you could get. Although we didn't have half pennies when I was a kid, you could get 2 sweets for a penny. Do you
Yeah,
remember
that was late 70s, early 80s, where
I remember half pennies.
blackjacks and fruit salads were half a p.
Yes.
That was the only
No, they
thing.
didn't
though.
say they were half a p. They said they were 2 for a penny.
No, I used to
have
get-
half-
No,
I used to have half p.
peas when I was a kid.
Yeah, but when I was a
don't
kid,
know.
they did have half
Yeah.
p's.
No, not when I was a kid.
Funny little coin.
I remember
Peas in our time.
Oh, Jonathan.
Oh, boom, boom.
Boom, boom.
What's this got to do with Brexit anyway? These-
Not a lot, really. I just thought I'd...
What are you, the conversation police? What do you make of it, Sam?
Well, I just think saying saying about this, like the good old days nostalgia, it kind of makes you guys sound like what people say the traditional gammon Brexiteers are.
Yeah, but we are
not
half
those guys.
We are half that. Yeah, but you guys aren't. But we are, and we're a coalition of Brexiteers.
Of old people.
No,
Like to
different
reminisce.
sorts of Brexiteers.
Well, bear in mind, I actually voted Remain originally, so...
I remember those days in the 70s when they were piling the bodies up and all the refuse was uncollected. Oh wait.
What would have been better is to have remembered the old days where, like, what they were comparing it back to sort of the 1930s when they were trying to have these big states where Germany owned, like, Lithuania and Latvia and Bulgaria. It was all under the German Empire.
What have you
They
turned
had,
into
like-
Jonathan?
No, they did, didn't they? They had, like, we had massive empires over Europe. Come on, Jonathan, you know.
Back her up quick, she's flowing, she's flowing.
I remember there was a German Empire which included basically
Yeah, that
most
came
of
to
the
a
Eastern
fairly
country.
abrupt end in sort of 1919 at Versailles. So it and a lot of the what had
Not
been
really.
Germany
Do you remember-
Lithuania was.
I remember- do you
Lithuania
remember
was
them-
still part of the German Empire up until the Second World War.
Do you remember them Wars of the Roses, Sam? That was a heavy time.
State.
I'm sure it was still part of the German Empire because that's where they took a load of the Poles as well.
When those bloody Romans came over and started building them roads.
Sam's going to leave in a minute.
Well, I just thought, I thought the lefty newspapers, even now, even after their massive defeat, they're still kind of clinging on. I had to take out some of the more annoying bits. The article was basically, here's some good news and here's some bad news, and there was a hell of a lot more. I mean, look at the comment they made there. They said, and don't forget those blue passports. It's just another little dig, isn't it?
It's just another way of saying the people that vote to leave are idiots, isn't it? It's yet again pointing out all those people that,
I was on Facebook last night, and I think there was one of these posts where somebody puts up, we're leaving in 7 days, and I was like, hooray, good riddance to Brexit, or something, good riddance to the EU, like you do. Just for a bit of fun. It was all, and this very kind of, very full of themselves lady pops up and says, well, actually, we're not going to be leaving, we're still going to make good friends with our partners, much as you might hate it. Well, I don't hate it, I've travelled all over Europe, I love Europe, and in fact, I'm going to Europe the day after Brexit. Skiing, how about to France? I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I'll get to the border and they'll be like, get back, Englander. We'll find out, won't we, how hard she is. What do you think, Jonathan? Do you think they might turn me away at the gates?
I think they ought to just, on aesthetic grounds, if nothing else, but...
Lock me up.
No, just sort of
Brexiteers prison.
turn you round and send you back. Just
Okay.
this guy is too ugly to enter our country.
It's not just me, we've got several of us going. So Sam's going, and a guy called Dave, who has never been on our podcast, is going, but shout out to Dave. And who else is going? Gary, yeah. So also never been on our podcast. Both of them ought to come on one day, just for the fun value of it. They're both really loud. Anyway, they're going to be cursing this podcast when they listen to it. Let's move on to item 3. So this is the ex. Is the ex of the MEPs finished yet? Are they still MEPs or are they finished? I think they had their last day as an MEP, didn't they? Isn't it done? Seem to remember. I don't know. They're either still MEPs or just about to stop or have already stopped.
They were moaning about their
last one.
No, they were moaning about the I can't think of the bloody word now. When you retire, you get a pension. That's it, a pension. My brain's gone to
Watch.
not well. No, they were basically one of the I think Labour or Lib Dems was moaning that she didn't get a pension or something because they've not been there long enough.
Oh no.
Oh, bless her.
Oh, hard girl, hard lives.
I was reading about it somewhere.
That 150,000 a year over there, and that wasn't enough. Yeah.
Just obviously didn't save enough of her pennies.
And the giant expenses they can claim without any word, and the fact that they don't pay net taxes and so on and so forth. Anyway, so Daniel Hannan, who was one of our MEPs, a very well-known and well-spoken one, has named 3 countries that he believes will soon follow Britain out of the EU in an exclusive interview with the Express newspaper. As Brexiteers prepare to revel in this historic moment, an outgoing Conservative MEP, Daniel Hannan, told the Express Co-UK that there will be at least 3 more countries that will follow Britain out of the EU in the foreseeable future. It could happen accidentally because of some economic shock. In that case, I think Italy would be a candidate, he said. Or it could happen Brexit style, in other words, a referendum. Demand for a referendum and a successful referendum. And I think probably at the moment I would put my money on the Netherlands. And then he said, but I have to nod in the direction of Denmark, which is also having a similar debate. So that's the 3 countries he thinks might follow us. What do you think, Jonathan? Do you think anyone else is going to follow our lead, or do you think we're the only ones who are ever going to lead?
I think we're the only ones, really. At the end of the day, we trade with the world. Most of these other countries don't.
Yeah, I mean, we've always, haven't we, historically been known to be a country that looks to the world to trade. We're not very insular. We do try and trade with every corner of the globe. We used to control most every corner of the globe, but that's probably why. But that's our habit, isn't it? I mean, what do you think, Sue? Anyone else going to go?
Yeah, I think they will. And I don't think it's always about who you trade with. I think it's about that independence and being governed by a system that you don't agree with. People, I just don't think people agree with it very much. And I think we've got a lot of support. I know the left wing don't tend to like to tell us that we've got a lot of support in the way we think and feel. So it's quite nice. It would be quite nice if other countries were as independent thinking as I think they are.
What do you think, Sam?
I don't think Italy will leave because Italy are massively being propped up by the EU. So why would you bite off the hand that feeds you?
Yeah, but people don't always know that, do we? I mean, look at the people who want Scotland to break away from the UK.
I think they know on some level. But I wouldn't actually be surprised if Germany or France are actually the ones, although they seem massively keen. I think the reason they're so keen to keep us in is because they know their people will start demanding to leave.
Well,
they're massive. I mean, if you're in Germany right now and you're paying in a massive amount to the EU for these other countries, would you be happy about that?
Yeah, but the EU protects Germany's trade position, or has historically done so in a number of ways. I mean, through the Euro project.
But every problem we've ever had in this world is because of the Germans, so they're going to start some sort of problem again. Just,
Germanophobia. It's happening. It's happening. To complicate things, for the EU, after January 31st, Identity and Democracy, the Eurosceptic coalition formed by Italy's Matteo Salvini and France's Marine Le Pen, will become the Institute's fourth largest. They will overtake the pro-European Greens as new parliamentary seats are allocated to replace the outgoing Britons. IND will benefit from 3 new members as part of the redistribution of 73 seats formerly occupied by the British MEPs. And they are not fans of the EU, so that's got to destabilise, don't you think, John?
It certainly would a bit, yeah.
I'm surprised they're actually reorganising that way, not just cutting the seats.
Yeah, it's just weird, that is.
Why not just cut the seats, seeing as the UK don't exist anymore?
I mean, the idea of pro-European Greens makes my skin crawl. I mean, Greens at the worst of times are annoying, but can you imagine the European level Greens? How annoying they must be.
I don't think they'd cut them, solely because there's money in it. Whenever there's money, people always find a reason to continue it, don't they? So I don't think they'll cut it ever.
Well, I'm going to ask each of you to go online and commit to which country you think will leave the EU next, if any country does. Jonathan, you can't say none, even though you think none. You've got to pick one, okay? And then we'll see for posterity if we were right. So what do you think, Sam?
Germany.
What do you think, Susan?
I don't know. I've no idea.
You've got to
pick one. Just pick one at
Italy.
random. Italy, okay?
Yeah.
What do you think, Jonathan?
Greece.
I'm going with Holland. Okay, well that's our verdict. So we'll be able to see in future which one of us is prescient and which one of us knows
France
nothing.
or maybe I should have gone with France, because they have just had all the riots.
You know nothing, Sam
They've
Snow.
had like a year of riots, haven't they?
Yeah.
Have they even stopped yet?
They never stop.
so.
They're always either rioting or striking or both.
Or having a revolution.
Or a revolution. Rioting, striking, revolution. And they never seem to admit their problems either. You notice that you never hear about those riots that the Yellow Jackets or whatever they're called are doing are massive and destructive and violent, and the police are being violent in response. We don't hear anything about it.
No, I know.
If that was going on in London, it would be the talk of the world, wouldn't it?
Very much so.
Anyway, agenda item 4. A bully and a liar. Who do you think I'm talking about, Susan?
It could be anyone. A lot of people that read that description.
Don't
My
know.
friend,
Continue and then I'll have a guess.
John Bercow, torn apart in a ferocious attack by former Black Rod. John Bercow is a bully and a liar who brutalised staff, the former Black Rod in the House of Commons has claimed, adding others were considered lodging complaints against the ex-speaker. Mr Bercow, who was perceived by many Brexiteers as working to thwart Brexit during his time in office, has complained about the government's apparent decision not to offer him a peerage. But Mr Leakey told Sky News, "I wouldn't want to make any direct comparison between the charges levelled against Harvey Weinstein and New York at the moment with the allegations made against John Bercow. They're of a different order. But the film industry is no more going to recognise Harvey Weinstein for a lifetime award for his achievements, and nor should John Bercow be given a lifetime peerage in the House of Lords." He added, "My opinion is that he brutalised staff in the House of Commons and elsewhere, and I include myself in that." So, as passive-aggressive attacks go, what do you make of it, Jonathan?
Well, I actually knew John Bercow when he was in the Federation of Conservative Students. It was never
Cool
very-
story.
Yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. But,
Name drop
you know,
early, yeah.
But
Did he ever touch your leg?
no.
I don't think those allegations are even in there.
No.
I think they're quite right to head off a problem, and I think there's more that's going to come out with John Bercow, and I think they've headed off a problem, and it would have been more problematic if they'd given him a title, and then, you know, everybody said, well, why did you give this guy a title?
But also,
So
he's just a massive tool, isn't he? I mean, to be honest with you, who wants to give a peerage to this guy? No way.
Well, no,
basically.
there's two reasons, right? Firstly, the speaker is supposed to be non-political, really. However, they are supposed to be. However, it's fair to say that if your party is in government, while you might not be overtly political, you don't seek to obfuscate. How do you say that word? I was trying
Obstruct?
I was trying to be clever and it failed spectacularly. But
It's all this gin you're
you
drinking.
don't obstruct your own government, and that is what he did through and through. So, you know, if you're going to obstruct us and you're part of our team and you're not going to be part of our team anymore, don't expect to get a reward of a peerage. Tough cheese. So that, in one sense, is why he should get a peerage. But the second reason is, everything I've read about him, he just sounds like a horrible, odious little man. I mean, when you looked at the things he said to people in Parliament and some of the ways he responded to people, he sounded so rude.
All he ever seemed to do is kind of sneer.
Yeah.
And he was
Well, it was
just...
so much better. He got a typical short man syndrome because he was a little fellow. He thought he had to just be a big cheese.
How tall is he?
Like really small, like 5'4" or something.
Oh, I'm glad about that.
Let me see. I'm going to Google it.
Find out. You Google how tall he is. Susan, what do you make of it?
I find it really embarrassing that if you're not given the award that you feel that you're going to get, or in this say the peerage, that they have a little tantrum. I find that really embarrassing actually. No matter how much I hated someone for not giving me it, nobody else would know about it for a start.
Yeah.
Though I do think it's a little bit mean, isn't it, to even bring in the Harvey Weinstein comment anywhere near him, because it was nothing to do
the
with
fact that he
anything
did
to do
that seems to suggest how furious he is with the
Yeah.
guy. I mean, obviously, he's nothing like that bloke. I mean,
No.
there's no comparison. That was true. But the fact that he was prepared to try and tie them together in that way
Yeah.
tells you the unpleasantness between them, how
Yeah.
angry he is with
There's
John
obviously
Bercow.
a lot of bad blood underneath the surface.
Of course, we don't know.
He's 5'5".
Well, that's not that short. So, we
3 inches is important. 3 inches is 3 inches.
Yes.
okay, let's not go there. Right, so, I mean, the way it seems to me is that he is just so full of entitlement. He always seems to just think he deserves everything, that he's the big I am. He's yesterday's man, isn't he, Jonathan?
Totally.
And he's sad as well because his wife was going off with all those sexy guys, wasn't she?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I know that
she's
she
been in
was.
the paper loads of times.
She
There
was well known for
Bercow.
not being the most
There
taste
was a
of
picture
individuals.
of her in the in a club, like having sex with a black guy.
No, there wasn't.
Right, let
Not
me
having
find
sex
it.
with
Well, I
him.
don't think they actually caught her on camera having sex. She was like, "Come back to my place" and stuff.
Oh, I think you've got to be careful what you say on this public broadcast.
Right,
really.
hold on.
Okay, you have a
Other
look
news
at that one
stories are available.
Right, here we go.
Yes.
From the Sun newspaper, Must Tongue Sally. Speaker's wife caught in a passionate clinch with mystery man in nightclub. Sally Bercow has attempted to brush off snogging another man in the nightclub, saying she has nothing to be ashamed of. Witnesses say she clung to the muscular mystery man during a boozy night out with her friends.
Well, maybe it was John Bercow.
She said, no.
Maybe they were on this roleplay thing where he pretends
was
that he's.
not-
Oh
there's
yeah,
a picture,
I've seen the picture. That's not the
Yeah.
same. It's not the same skin tone as John Bercow at all.
No.
He says it clung to the mystery man. He said it was a friend. She's just a friend.
Well, maybe it was. Maybe it was a kissy friend.
Well, the one that you actually properly tongue and everything.
Yeah, in marriages we don't
Look,
call them friends.
maybe John Bercow and her have the sort of marriage where they accept that. Maybe it's okay with him.
Maybe.
And what goes on between them and this mystery dark-skinned fellow is their own business, isn't it? As long as Bercow isn't bothered.
And also, she's been caught in loads of scandals. The first one where she had to pay out, she accused Lord McAlpine of being a child abuser, and he wasn't. So she then had to pay out loads of damages for libel. I don't think he's a child abuser, just, you know, FYI. But she did, and she accused him of that. Well, she can't just accuse someone of being a child abuser, and she had to pay out. And then as well, she was selling things on eBay from the speaker's
Not selling
house.
things
no,
on
from the
eBay.
speaker's house.
Oh, who cares?
You can't. I'm I'm sorry.
She does sound dodge though,
You
don't
can't
she?
sell things from Parliament. And what's even worse is one
cares,
buyer criticised her, saying she fails to contact or complete a sale. She's unreliable and rude in her messaging.
That happens all the time in
You got
eBay
negative
sales.
eBay. I've not had any negative eBay.
I was actually banned once from eBay for selling stuff because I was so late at delivering the goods, but it was only because I was having a tough time. I mean, come on, get over it. We all have tough times.
No,
I think the most unforgivable thing about her is
Is
that
the
she was a
eBay?
member of the Labour Party.
That's,
but yeah, she does sound like a bit of a dodgy old rope, to be honest.
Oh, come on. Look, I don't like Bercow, and I don't like her very much, but their personal business. I mean, Bercow seems like a bit of a cuck, doesn't he? But maybe that's his thing.
A what?
And a cuck.
oh.
A cuckold.
I
A man.
said cuck.
It's slang. But maybe that's his thing, and maybe that's why he goes and bullies people in Parliament, allegedly.
So the thing is, he's quite a
Not a
showman,
bit
though,
about-
isn't he? He's entertaining to watch. He is entertaining to
He's
watch.
not. He's a.
He is, because he's so
Tall.
nasty and mean. How many times do you watch him and go, oh, I can't believe he said that?
I suppose it's a bit like
But
watching an ugly black
yeah.
adder.
Yeah. It's the dog mess TV, isn't it, where you can't take your eyes away from it, even though it's really cringy.
All right, let's move on from Bercow. Let's move on to our last item, which is an Oxford professor. I don't know why I choked then. An Oxford professor, given protection after alleged threats from transgender rights activists, says she did not want to wait and see if I'd get hit in the face before taking action. Selena Todd, which sounds like a superhero name to me. Selena Todd, modern history professor at St Hilda's College, said members of staff accompanied her to lectures after learning of threats on social media. Professor Todd has now warned against shutting down debates. The University of Oxford said it did not comment on individual arrangements. The academic told BBC Radio 4's Today programme she felt vulnerable, having previously experienced hostility from some academics and students. Professor Todd said the threats from some campaigners who believe her views on the need to protect women's spaces, such as single-sex refugees, from people who self-identify as women but are anatomically male are unacceptable. The academic said that she had witnessed quite antagonistic and quite confrontational protests outside women's rights meetings she had spoken at in the past, but she insisted that discussions about women's rights should not be silenced. She said, "It's always the case that groups' needs and interests can conflict with those of other equally legitimate groups." What do you think about this, Jonathan, since you asked for this to be on the agenda?
Well, the thing is, it spins off in all sorts of different directions. I mean, you've got a clash here between the sort of feminists and the transgender people.
The left always eats
and,
itself.
and well, possibly, but I mean, one of the interesting things is if women are not happy with blokes turning up in women's toilets, why are women allowed to clean gents' toilets? Most
Not while they're in there.
no,
I just assume that all cleaners are women.
Yeah. What's the matter with you,
but
Boomer?
that's the point.
And what do you think we want to look at you lot for? We just want to clean the toilets and get out.
No, if
Do you want to clean the toilet? Because our toilet could do with a clean if you've got a minute.
Yeah.
I am a feminist, so be very
Yeah,
careful.
right. The thing is that people like Tesco, whoever, employ other supermarkets are available. Employ women cleaners. So the result is when women are in the toilets,
look, my
the
first
place
job,
gets cleaned
my
anyway.
first job was as a toilet cleaner. You know.
Yeah, and then the gents' toilets get closed while the woman is cleaning it.
It happens loads of
Because
times
we
to
have
us though,
cubicles,
and
hang
they're
on, we have
males.
cubicles and you don't have cubicles.
Yeah, but
So
that,
we can weave
No, I do have one
private.
cubicle.
that's you've missed the
Maybe
point.
One.
You've
They
missed.
don't ever use it.
You've
do they?
missed the point.
Why do you not know anything
Gents'
about the
toilets
mystique of men's
are
toilets?
far more often closed than women's toilets are because there's cleaners in there.
Oh, right.
Shiny
And-
proof.
and-
Where's your baseline
and-
study on that little gem?
So you following that is logical extent to say, right, you need male cleaners for male toilets and you need women cleaners for women's toilets. The argument against employing men usually is, well, we can't get them. And I had a row with a supermarket owner about this. He was saying, well, we can't get blokes to clean toilets. And I said, if you were paying them £25 an hour, you'd have a queue of people out there. What you mean is you don't want to pay the going rate.
Well, it's not the going rate, is it? Because if what they're paying is if people are working, then that's the going rate.
Well, no.
What you're saying is they don't want to work for the going rate.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So you're saying that men can think, oh, because we're men, we can pick these jobs we want to do, and you must pay us more for it because we are somehow so superior.
Can I?
What I'm saying
But
is,
women would go and do the cheap jobs.
if you have to have an equal number of cleaners from each
You
sex.
don't have to.
You are going to have to raise the pay level to one
Yeah, but
that
who
blokes
agrees
would
that
be
you have to have
attracted
an
by.
equal level?
Look, guys, my very first job as a teenager was cleaning toilets. Sorry,
And also,
my second job, and I cleaned men's and women's toilets. They were closed when I did it, of course,
Yeah, but
and with
not
other
that
people.
it's closed them now, because I've been to a supermarket literally the other day where it says male operative working in this, and you go in there and there's a dude there cleaning the sink, and he said, "Oh, sorry, love," and you have your wee, and that's it.
Yeah, you do that awkward
Close
thing,
the
don't you?
toilet.
You're like,
Does he
"Right,
always
mate?"
talk like that?
Yeah. Pretty much does, yeah.
Everyone looks a bit uncomfortable. You go and have your wee.
Yeah.
You know.
Try and make it as quiet as possible.
Yeah, put a little bit of paper down.
How do you feel about being referred to as love by a stranger, though?
He's just being polite.
Good one, nice one.
Generally do not.
Yeah, because honestly, why do people get so het up about such a load of nonsense?
No, I don't mind as long as it's not a swear word.
I mean, I go and have my hair cut, and if it's a lady cutting it, they will invariably say hello, darling, or whatever, and they're not. There's nothing mean nothing, does it? It's just
No.
how they refer to people.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that one. Going back to the transgender thing rather than the toilet thing. So personally, as toilets, I think we should all have unisex toilets. Because what happens with you lot is you go out and you just go for a wee. We go out and there's 14 different mothers in our toilets with 32 kids between them. I can never get into the toilet without waiting for...
Half your
that's a
problem,
better
There's like
argument.
11 and 12-year-old boys in our toilets.
half your problem is you spend 40 minutes
We d-
chatting about
No,
gossip
no,
and
it's
doing your
not that.
makeup in the
Well,
mirrors.
listen.
It's full of people and their kids. And these... I went into the local cinema the other day and there was he must have been a good 13, 14 with the door open.
Women
and
always
now
have to
standing
take the girls'
outside.
kids to the toilet.
Yeah, but what you're forgetting, conveniently, is that women also always have to go with 3 other women who didn't want to go to the toilet, but go. I've seen it 1,000 times.
Oh, nights out. I
And they're
want
like,
normal everyday
Nights
women
out
going
when you
about
have to
their
go,
business.
and also on top of that, so there you are. That's filling up your
you
toilet
lot-
straight
because-
away.
Because you should have cubicles in your toilet. So then dads can take their daughters into your toilet without
We
seeing
do have
bits and bobs.
cubicles.
Why
Why on
do they
earth
have
do you think?
one?
Because they have one cubicle.
Right. So first of all,
One cubicle is
let me
absolutely
And you
ruined
don't-
with
you
Detroit.
don't-
let me
Put
bust.
them into the top of poo.
Let me
Yeah.
bust your
No seat
nonsense.
on it.
Let me bust your nonsense. Men's toilets have just as many cubicles, virtually as many cubicles as women's do. They have loads of cubicles.
They don't.
You go to a pub, there's normally one cubicle in both. And if you go anywhere else, the only reason that we have perhaps slightly fewer cubicles is because we have urinals and you don't have
You shouldn't
them.
have urinals.
Oh, thanks a lot. But we want to go and use. We can't help it if it's easier for us than it is for you. You always feel you've got to have a sit down and a bit of a rest. We're even working when we go to toilet. We're such hard workers that even when we go to toilet, we stand, we get it done, we go.
How many theme parks have you been to recently where you look around and the blokes are walking in and out straight away?
Because
I've
we
got,
don't-
I've got
It's 'cause we
trenches
don't
to
mess
leave.
around.
No, I do think it's a bit unfair on men, right? Because if you say, for
I don't
example,
care.
you went to the pub tonight, okay, and you were busting for a wee and there was a queue for the ladies, if you went to the guys and was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, lads, I need
I
a
do,
wee,"
and I do.
they,
do
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
They would laugh and find it funny, right? And you'd
Yeah.
have your wee and you go. If a
Yeah.
guy came into the girls and said that, you'd be like, "Oh, fucking pervert."
You just
Wouldn't
swore.
you?
You just, oh,
But you would, wouldn't you?
I don't think swearing is illegal.
People would call him a pervert, wouldn't they? So that is a bit unfair on men. He's just using the girls'
The
toilet.
other
Doesn't
side-
mean he's a
No,
pervert.
what's wonderful about this now, and I have done this, where you can't get into the gents because the cleaner's in there, you go in the ladies. And if anyone queries it, you
Why are you
just say,
such a pervert?"
I self-identify as a woman. And that's it, you can use that toilet. Not a problem.
I've not even thought of
5
that.
years later, the police are arriving.
If it was ever that the women's toilet was quieter and easier to get into, we could all use it, but it
Yeah.
never is, so we might as well give up on
Well,
that.
I
You
once had
don't
a-
bother. We are so full in our toilets. Don't bother coming into ours.
Look, the problem
Half
is
of the
that we
kids-
don't mess around, right? We get. I've been out with girls, and we've gone to the toilet at the same time, and I'm in. I have a toilet. I wash my hands, come out. The girl's like 40 minutes
Wash
later.
their
She
hands
wanders.
and towel.
She wanders out. She's done all her makeup. She's had a bit of a chat. She's had a scone. She had a scone and a cup of tea.
My feminism right now is ready to strangle you for those comments. We do not sit in toilets having
takes
made
so
Listen,
long.
that's not fair. They deliberately make things that's easy for men. They even make those boxes with the little wee hole in them, don't they?
You have a bit of a chat about the guys
what
you've seen who
happens
you were
is the
attracted
guys
to
take
outside,
the
or
pictures.
girls you were
Yeah,
attracted
but the
to.
guys that
He
do
says.
Boxes with a wee hole. What
Yeah,
are
they
we
make
talking about
boxes
here?
with a little flap so you can stick your thing out to go for a wee. Have you not seen them?
What on earth are you
Oh,
talking about?
she's on
It's because they've got the walls and stuff. so
I
they
thought
won't
she
see it.
said boxes. What she meant?
Boxers.
The shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, all boxers have that.
Exactly. So my point is, right, for a guy, you literally stick your thing through both holes, go for your wee, leave, and invariably, I bet you don't wash your hands. If we're being honest, and
there's
you
a
just
lot of
leave,
females
right?
that don't.
So
That's
girls,
disgusting.
they have to go to the cubicle,
Disgusting.
right, lock the door, sit down, get all your bits off, which takes a while if you're wearing like 2 or 3 layers, then have your wee, wipe, put all your bits back back on, go and wash your hands and dry them and
40
leave.
minutes of makeup, chat about
No,
what's
but
going
even
on in your
that
life,
takes more
scone
time,
on a cup of
doesn't it?
tea.
I mean, part of the problem here is women don't wear skirts anymore because they wouldn't have to go
Yeah,
through this.
that's the biggest problem in the world today, is that we are not wearing skirts. What is wrong with you, Jonathan? I can't believe you just blown
Well, it's
up.
It's easier to have a wee if you're wearing a
It
skirt.
would cut down time. If you're wearing a skirt and no
You've
pants,
clearly
you
never
could use your
worn
line on
tights,
pretty
because
quick.
they are horrible to wear, aren't they? We've
Jonathan's
said
worn
this
tights. What are you
last
talking about? Why are you such a
night.
sexist?
Oh my god.
He can wear tights if he likes, and you can't stop him.
Tights aren't nice, no.
Tights are horrible. They're the bane of our lives. Anyway, I'm not talking to Jonathan for the rest of the night. So, transgender, which is a part of it, I completely agree with this woman that you cannot shut down debate.
Oh, is that what the topic was
Yes,
about?
it was. You cannot shut down debate. If somebody is racist, you need to talk it through and understand where they're coming from, because people do not learn without talking it through and debating. If people are transgender, totally right. You can't just suddenly go, everyone identifies as a woman, should do it, because actually, as much as I completely agree that everyone can identify whatever they like, it makes no difference to me. However, women's sports and male sports are my biggest thing at the moment. When I see that, when I see someone that was born a male that has the testosterone and the levels and the muscle mass of a men smashing women's titles.
There's the
within
MMA
the
guy, isn't there?
first day. Oh my
There's
god.
the MMA guy that just smashes up girls all the
It's
time, and it's like,
just
I'm the champ.
horrific.
That
I
was
feel
from
so
a cartoon,
sorry
I think.
for
I don't
him.
think that was actually.
No, there is an MMA guy who
Yeah, there
smashes up
is.
girls. Yeah. There's and wrestlers as well.
Yeah,
So
and
it
what
goes-
can you do as well? If you
And
like,
that
say you're a man and you
cyclist-
identify as a woman, you
Oh,
go
yeah.
to women's prison or.
Well, this is it. I think there's good.
I've got to say
well,
that
where
South
debate
Park
comes
was a
from.
really funny video.
Well,
Well
that's
worth
where
a
the
watch.
debate comes from, because it's not just easy things, is it? I mean, we need to make sure people transgender, that are transgender, have their rights upheld. But that does not mean that you get to literally dismiss everyone else's rights.
God, I'm so sick of everybody saying about their rights all the time.
Oh well, that's where responsibility then comes in as well. You have a responsibility towards people as well.
I mean, you know, the way I see it is this, right? We should. I've got no problem with having a man's toilet, a female toilet, and a unisex or no-sex toilet that anyone who wants to can use if they don't want to. If that's the thing they want to do, whatever reason, they might just want to get in there because it's quicker. They might want to get in there because they think they're some 17th gender or whatever. That's up to them. But I could not give a stuff about that. But what annoys me is this demand. We must have this. We must have that. And isn't it caused a rift on the left, where the kind of radical feminists, who are often lefties, not always, the radical feminists, the real kind of hard left feminists, have fallen right out with the transgender movement, because the transgender movement are infiltrating their space. They're basically saying, but hang on, we're women too, we can have all these things you want. And some of those radical feminists are saying, hold on a minute, that's not at all what we've been saying all this time. You're men, stop pretending to be women. And they really are in a bit of a ruck about
The
it.
interesting thing here is the particular college. It's St Hilda's. This professor, which has a
Could be a man or a female name.
Yeah, no, but it was
Never met a man called
was
Hilda,
time
but-
gone by an entirely female college, and it has a reputation of being sort of a hotbed of feminism. So it's it's interesting where it's coming from.
Well, that's a question, isn't it? So if you're a man who then identifies as a woman, a young man, for instance, can you go to an all-girls school?
Well, this is what's going to be. This is where the debate comes in, though, isn't it? Because
But it's bonkers, isn't
all
it?
these things.
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean,
there
that guy put in a woman's prison, wasn't he? 'Cause he identified as he was a rapist, and he said he was now a woman's, and he was put in a woman's prison.
You're kidding.
No,
It's not
no.
like this country, was it?
Well,
Yes,
I don't even know, I'm not sure. I don't know where it was, but there was a guy that he raped women,
And then he assaulted a woman in it, didn't he? I think. Find the news
Well,
story.
that
yeah.
was a shock, weren't it? 'Cause no one ever saw that coming, did they?
Yeah, but you see, that's the trouble, right? When you start bowing to people
I
who
know.
demand every stupid thing, then you can be nice to people, right? You can treat people respectfully, let them believe what they want and say what they want and think they are whatever they think they are, and that's no problem. We can all just get along and do our own thing, can't we? But when you start trying to foist that on everyone else, you start getting to these challenges. Like, how can a man identifying as a woman run in a woman's foot race when he's obviously going to beat them all?
Yeah, so
and
it
he is
was
going to
in
beat
the UK. It was in Yorkshire. So she was transitioning to become. It was a man transitioning to become a female. And she was put into a female prison. And when she was arrested, she'd been described as a danger to women and children. And they put her into a women's prison. And she admitted sexually assaulting women in the female prison and raping 2 other women.
You say she, but you don't
If
mean
I
she.
was those
do you?
She was
prisoners,
transitioning.
if I was those prisoners, I would sue the justice system there, and I would absolutely sue them. How dare they put them women at risk? Because as well as I know they're prisoners, but we still have to make sure they are safe.
Yeah, but you can see how, in all fairness, for the justice system, how they would be on the other side. Because if they'd have put her in a male's prison, everyone would have been like, how are you, what about her rights? And, you're just going against them, you're putting her at risk from all these men. So they can't win. And then what do you have? Do you have a separate prison?
But I think you can win.
People?
I think you can win where you sit there and say, we're not doing anything until actually we've spoken about it and decided. Because at the minute, no one knows what to do, so they're rushing into things. They're saying, yes, you can join that sport. And you can't. I mean, there's no way in the world that you can do that. I would be all for having a transgender sports
I think
section.
The problem here is not thinking things through from the word go. And a classic example of this, locally in our town, I have to say, predominantly women were complaining about blokes urinating in the street.
Oh, yeah.
And so a suggestion was put forward that, they have these sort of pop-up urinals like they do in London.
Oh, you could not be
pissoir, that's what they're called.
So you would have thought that the council thinks, right, we've got a problem, this will solve the problem, these women will be happy. No, what happened was the women on the council there complained, well, if you're going to build them for men, you need to build them for women.
That's not ours.
And, no, it is. We are going back a few years.
Oh,
but
okay.
And so the whole scheme was scrapped because of these women's opposition to it on grounds that, well, there need to be same facilities for women. Even though there wasn't a problem with women pissing in the street.
But when it's been talked about more recently, and some members of the public were opposed to it because they said they didn't want to see people standing there having a wee, right? But more underlies it than that, because quite a lot of these people who are doing this are a certain group, and that certain group are not well liked by another group, and there's a lot of with these things there are often underlying issues that are unspoken.
It's never about the crumb on the floor.
That is a good saying, and I mostly agree with that. But I don't think it's anything to do with anything other than nobody wants you to wee up their building. No one wants to see. I mean, if I walk around town and I see someone with their penis out, I don't want to see it. I've got no interest
If I
in
have to
seeing
say,
it.
I've never very rarely seen someone who's winged actually seen
I've
their
only
penis.
ever
They do
seen
usually
it.
hide
I've only
it.
ever seen it once.
I seen it once with my little sister actually, which was quite gross because some man was at the side of the road and he was actually deliberately showing it, and I really felt like getting out of the car and snipping it
That's
off.
what I mean. I don't think they should.
Because you can hide it. Do you see what I mean? It's not about doing it. It's just about at least having the decency to hide it away, not to keep wanging it around.
Snipping it off?
Oh,
What a psychopath!
Oh right, so it's okay to flash a bit at an 8-year-old girl.
Who said that? All I said is you just want to jump out and snip it off. That's a bit of an instant reaction.
Oh, don't put it out in front of people, and then we want to slip off them.
No, snip it off.
But no,
I'll remember that next time you go to a
saying,
nudist
oh,
street.
why is that man doing that? And you're asking you, and she's seen it.
you can't normalise that, because if you start normalising people getting their penis out in front of you, you're literally just messing up the next generation of people. So you can't. And actually, you're all grown up. Go to the toilet. Like the rest of us.
Periodically, people try and reverse the rules on nudity in public, don't they? Periodically, a group come along who think that there shouldn't be laws and try and change them and reverse them.
I personally
always got
don't
their own
care,
agenda
right?
for that one.
Often I've known in the past, family members have been caught short, you're on a long drive, whatever. I've got no issue with the man
We've all done the
pulling over.
People in this room, in fact.
Yeah, pulling over, going down in a quiet little bush and having a toilet.
Yeah,
but
perfect.
that's different than standing somewhere with your penis completely out and showing it to everyone.
It's not just men who pee in public, may I say. I walk down a street and I've seen a girl a drunk girl, obviously, just squatting in the middle of the street having a wee.
Yeah.
I saw someone the other day walking, she should have wet herself. I had once with kids, because obviously kids are a whole new rule as well, but on the Autobahn in Germany, we got stuck in traffic and I had to, both of my daughter and my niece really need the toilet. And
You have
after
to
about
hold
an
it
hour,
up.
I had to open, so we opened the front door, the back door, my sister opened the front door, the back door on her side, we just had to have these children wee in the middle of this Autobahn. There was nowhere else we could go. So it was a bit embarrassing, and we got in the car, we were just like this, just head down. But children are a different thing. You lot aren't. You're grown up.
Look,
Just 'cause you've
stop
got one,
saying
that
it, you
doesn't
lot.
mean
Lots of women also have a wee in the street.
no, come on.
In
No,
comparison,
No,
No, come
no,
on.
reasons.
About as many women wee in the street as Jonathan thinks men clean toilets.
Only because it's easier for men to do it. In fact, I must have
Yeah,
seen
it's
one
lazy
woman for
to
every
do
4
that.
men in my life that I've seen do
Because
this.
the thing
You
is,
gotta
you
do the
can't
show.
wipe,
And
you
that's
have to
broadly
wipe
because
yourself.
it's
Yeah,
broadly
you
because
can't.
women can't do it as inconspicuously as men.
They have to wipe. Men don't have to wipe. It's the wiping that's the issue.
Doesn't mean they can't wipe.
And let's face
Something with you.
it's women who are always caught short on car journeys, not men, isn't it?
Doesn't mean we
No.
just wee in a bottle though, do we?
Well, not
Sorry,
Jonathan.
obviously I accept Jonathan because you're getting on a bit. You're that special age.
Mr. Toilet Man. At 4p an hour.
Guys, I think we've pretty much brought our conversation to a close. We've had a long one tonight. I think we'll just all say goodbye. Any last words and goodbyes you want to say, Sam?
No, bye.
And Susan?
No, bye.
And Jonathan?
Well, depending.
Oh, good night, Jonathan.
Well, no, if we're not doing one in the next few days, it's goodbye Europe.
Well, I think we'll do one
yeah,
before
that.
Brexit because we're all off. Well, a number of us are off on holiday next Friday, but we'll try and do another one or two before then. But otherwise, I've been Steve and we've been the team, and we'll talk to you soon.